Namaskar. Hello and welcome to P Guru's channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. Today I have the pleasure, I should say joy, of company of Dr. Subramanian Swamy, former Law, Justice and Commerce Ministers and currently a Rajya Sabha member. And Dr. Swamy and I will be discussing a little bit about how some rogue states in the in India have started doing things that are perhaps not what they are meant to do. We are going to take up some specific issues. While this applies to many states, we are only going to first start with DMK because for some reason DMK seems to be the first one where they try to keep examining or extending the boundaries. So without further ado, let me welcome Dr. Swamy and then we will set the context. Dr. Swamy, namaskaram and welcome to P Guru's channel, sir.
Namaskar.
Dr. Swamy, I just want to give a brief history of the Dravida politics to our viewers, and then I will set up the context for you to answer the question, sir. So could we have the graphic, please? So this is the history of what I call as Dumeelology. Dumeel is a sound of a bullet being fired, but it's an empty shell. It doesn't have a bullet inside it. It makes a lot of sound. It's got nothing. So this is the moniker that they've been given by many people. So DMK or ADMK, we should not take a look at them separately. The whole ecosystem is Dumeel. So in 1965, they became popular. I mean, they have been around since 1950s, but 65, they did this anti-Hindi agitations. And until Lal Bahadur Shastri came in and said that nothing will be imposed, there was a lot of agitations. And that kind of gave them the foothold. In 1967, on an anti-Congress wave, they came to power, but they required the help of the Swatantra Party of Rajaji to come to power because he openly said, on my Jano, I'm swearing that you should not vote for Congress. And that made a big impression in the minds of people. But after they came to power, he was sidelined. And let's fast forward quickly. In 1991, Dr. Swamy was, I think, the law minister at that point of time. They were dismissed for anti-national activities. This DMK government. In fact, I might be so bold to say that if there is one person they are deathly afraid of, it is Dr. Swamy, DMK government. And then they were back in power in 1996 thanks to Jayalalitha's corruption. Can we go to the next slide, please?
And by the way, that Jayalalitha's corruption also was exposed by me.
Exactly. So Dr. Swamy has been sort of the person who's he brings justice to the people of Tamil Nadu. If only they know how to appreciate that. That's a matter for a different day. So let's move on. In 2011 and 16, ADMK won back to back. But in 2019, after the center, BJP came back to power at the center, in September, DMK once again threatened an anti-Hindi agitation. And the TN governor asked them to come meet him. There were, I think, three people, Kanimozhi, Maran, and MK Stalin. They went in with all, like dragon with flames coming from their mouths and ears. They went in. Something happened in that meeting. They came out and addressed the press conference and said, we are indefinitely postponing the Hindi agitation. Clearly, something happened there. We don't know what it was. So that was one point where I think they got the thing, I can only push this envelope so far. I'm just paraphrasing here. I don't know what exactly happened there. I was not a fly on the wall there. Otherwise, I would know. So now in 2021, they are back in power. Now, what have they done? They have raked up NEET, knowing fully well that a candidate who is selected on NEET can be employed all over in India and probably even abroad because it is a central education system. And they still keep breaking up NEET. They destroy Hindu temples, knowing fully well it's illegal. And then they keep exhibiting secessionist tendencies. So these are all things that they think that they can run riot. Dr. Swamy, this is the basic thing, but I can tell you a few more things that these people have tried to do. For example, when judgment went against them, they started berating the judge. They don't even know the simple thing that you can criticize a judgment. You cannot criticize a judge.
Yeah.
So Dr. Swamy, I've laid down the context for you, sir. Yeah. We are just talking about one state government, but there are other state governments also who are also doing these things. But it almost seems like this guy is a ringleader for that. That's how I see it, sir. You take it away.
Well, I think the distinctiveness of the DMK is it has a long history of being stooges of foreign powers. When it was started as a Dravida Karagam, which later split into Dravida Karagam and DMK, or some petty issues, but they never separated ideologically. They were actually promoted by the British, and they were made to ask for secession, so that Tamil Nadu is different, and they had all these cockeyed ideas that Tamil is more ancient than the Sanskrit traditions, and they propagated all that. And one of the ways they, after coming to power, they propagated this was to say that that we will not allow Tamilians to learn Hindi or Sanskrit, and even English is not that important. And so there are large numbers of educated people in Tamil Nadu who only know Tamil. And in that, you see, the DMK is unchallenged. The amount of rubbish, lies they put out is tremendous. And their anti-national character I came to know in 1991, or 1990 to be exact, when Karunanidhi had just been elected, maybe 6 or 8 months before I came to become a minister in the center. He had been elected with the help of a coalition of VP Singh and others, and he came back after a very long time. I think 16, 17 years, he came back to power as chief minister again. And I found when I became the senior most minister in Chandrasekhar's government, that Mr. Karunanidhi was aiding the LTT fully. At that time, the LTT and the Indian Army, which was called the IPKF, were in combat. And you will be surprised that when I became minister, I came to learn that the injured LTT people were brought to Chennai and were in various hospitals of Tamil Nadu. They were, helped and helped to recover. So, and then, of course, during Karunanidhi's, as after Karunanidhi came to power, he gave them petrol pumps so that they could earn some money. He helped them launder black money, all kinds of things. It was a total commitment to the LTT. And the idea was that they will separate and form an Indian state in northern Sri Lanka, and along with India, Tamil Nadu, they will form a greater Tamil kingdom, or whatever they were planning. Now, of course, these plans went wrong, awry, because he never thought that the center would dismiss his government, because there was a general sentiment that if you dismiss the DMK government, then secession would be very easy for them to propagate. But when I had come to Tamil Nadu and moved around, and I saw all these petrol pumps and the LTT guys roaming around, and then the Intelligence Bureau briefed me that Baby Subramaniam and 2-3 other LTT people, they were meeting on a regular basis with Karunanidhi, and getting central intelligence, which we used to send to all state chief ministers. It was being provided to them. And that is why when I returned back to Delhi, I told Chandrasekhar, we will have to dismiss this government. We were very few takers. Our almost all the bureaucrats who were there in the Cabinet Committee on Political Affairs, which is that select committee which makes these decisions based on intelligence provided. But intelligence is not provided to all ministers. It's only provided to the members of the CCPA, as it's called. And there'll be, I was one minister, I think there was one more minister, and then there was Chandrasekhar, and then the rest are all Commander-in-Chief of the Army, Navy, Air Force, Intelligence Bureau Chief, RAW Chief, that kind of thing. It's the apex decision-making body. So we finally, Chandrasekhar yielded to my doing it. Now, I'm giving you this background because I am familiar with the extent of anti-national activities that the DMK was conducting. But the only thing that was going in their favor, as far as we were concerned, was that if we did anything to them, they had the organizations, they will light Tamil Nadu on fire, as the IB chief, Mr. I forget his name, but he told me, he told the meeting actually that rivers of blood will flow and a separate Tamil Nadu will be created. But exact opposite happened. I supervised the dismissal, and there was people were talking about rivers of blood. A normal thing that happens is all the transport buses are burnt. This happens even in an ordinary agitation. But even a cycle was not burnt. And there was tremendous support from the public. And subsequently, we held elections, and in the elections, out of 234 seats, Karunanidhi got only 2 seats. And so after 16 years coming to power and then getting dismissed, and then it was a very painful thing for him. But unfortunately, we had nobody to take his place. So Rajiv Gandhi and I decided that Jayalalitha will be promoted. And she was living in another world, see. And she became very violent herself. She became violent with me for criticizing her, some of her policies. And so I had to lead a demonstration against them. So he again came back because the exposure of her corruption was so extensive that the public was disgusted and they voted Karunanidhi back. So since then, of course, they've been doing this, going back and forth, sometimes ADMK, sometimes DMK. Now, however, I have found that basically they feel their survival depends on the distance they put with the rest of India. So they will say, nobody can learn Hindi. I said that at least for Devanagari script, see, Devanagari script is not Hindi.
Correct.
Hindi is written in Devanagari.
Right.
But so is Marathi written in Devanagari.
Yes.
So is Nepali written in Devanagari. Of course, Sanskrit is written in Devanagari. And the Gujarati script is also almost like Devanagari. So, and Tamil also, you see, you would take ka, you'll put a ka like that, and you want a ki, then you just put a matra. That's exactly Devanagari. So I felt that, Tamil Nadu, at least these road mileage stones, they can put it in Devanagari, which means it's easy for people of the north also to read, and it's not Hindi. But even that they would not agree. They would paint it black and so on and so forth. And NEET was something which you have mentioned is something that they felt terribly threatened, because most of the money made illegally by DMK people were converted into hospitals and colleges and universities. And hospitals was a real money provider. And so when it became doctors, selection of doctors, they used to have their own exams. And, it's all favoritism. So when this NEET was brought in, it was an all India exam, only one day exam. And people were selected by merit. There was, frankly, widespread welcome, because many people felt this is how it should be. But it meant robbing the DMK of a cash cow, or as they call it, so something which will give them easy money, because once you have a hospital, you can overcharge, you can do this, you can launder money, all kinds of things. So if you go and see the hospitals in Tamil Nadu, except perhaps PC Reddy's Apollo, almost all of them have some connections with the DMK. So this NEET, which certified who will be a doctor, I mean, because you come through that exam and then graduate, that essentially robbed them of that facility to make money by promoting people, passing people who didn't deserve to pass, but they had the money and so on. So, of course, the government of India stood firm. No other state is objecting. Now, this is another interesting thing. No other state. Yet, Stalin, despite the fact that ADMK also in imitation had opposed the NEET, but the President of India, under the Constitution, whose permission, because this is a concurrent list. And in the concurrent list means both state and center can build hospitals. It's both have the, so the ADMK government also tried to, without the requisite qualifications, set up hospitals, but and beyond outside NEET, and that was not allowed by the president. So therefore, this is something which is causing a great deal of heartburn. They say this is other form of imperialism, etc., etc. It's a way of uniform quality for doctors, and where people who can compete, they make the grade. So this is how it is there. The DMK can never change its colors because all of them depend on it. The cinema world depends on that. This anti-nationalism is the one that fuels it. And there are a lot of foreign powers also to support them. And now, of course, their biggest disappointment is that the Rajapaksa has destroyed the LTT completely. So they don't have the Jaffna background. In Sri Lanka, by the way, there are two kinds of Tamils. One is the Jaffna Tamil, the other is the what they call as the Hill Tamils. The Hill Tamils are later migrants to Sri Lanka, and they are totally with Rajapaksa. They are ministers and so on. Tondaman is always known to be someone who never thought much of the Jaffna Tamils. So now Jaffna Tamil is also being pacified, and it's slowly coming. Douglas Devanand. Douglas was his code name. He's not a Christian, but Douglas Devanand is now the fishery ministry, and DMK is having a hell of a problem because they were using motor boats,
Mechanized trawlers. Mechanized trawlers.
Mechanized trawlers, and they used to dig the ground, so even the eggs came out, and so in the Indian side there's hardly any fish left. So that's why they go on crossing into Sri Lanka's waters. And then they make a big hullabaloo, Indian fishermen have been picked up by Sri Lankans. But now that they have a Tamil minister, he has said very clearly, you cross the border, I'll take you into custody. And then, of course, they'll go through trial, and after some sentence, we'll let them go. So DMK means weakening of the state, and the Tamilians are the biggest sufferers of it. Tamilians who come north, they all feel sad that they don't know Hindi. While they are in Tamil Nadu, they don't speak about it because it's not necessary. But they feel the pinch when they come to the north. Contractors who come to build houses and so on and so forth, they also have complained to me, and that, can you not see that Hindi is introduced? But they won't let it. They say no, only two language formula, Tamil and English also, as in Tamil they say are kore. You see, neither here nor there. So I would say to you that it's a very sad thing that the only alternative to DMK today is ADMK, which is a imitation of DMK. They are always on the defensive. The DMK will say, you sold out to the north, you this and so on. Jayalalitha, but for her eccentricity, she was the right person for them. But unfortunately, she didn't know who friends were and who enemies were. And anyone who didn't kowtow before her must be an enemy. So that's where the problem came. That's why it's most unusual. I was her best friend for 3 years, then the worst enemy for 3 years, and again the best friend for 3 years. It went on like that because she was that kind of emotional person. Suddenly she'll phone me up and say, I've been a fool, I've been an idiot. You must forgive me. This cinema has ruined me. And now let's be friends. So we'll be friends for 3 months. Then one day she'll say, oh, you think you're the smart one. You're because you were a professor at Harvard. You think I'm an idiot. Get out from here. That sort of, person she was. She was not stable. So anyway, we need an alternative. And the alternative has to be a unashamed Hindu party. The problem with BJP today in Tamil Nadu is they are got an inferiority complex and they want to seem to be more Tamil than anybody else. You can be a Tamil, that's no problem, but then you should be proud that you're an Indian and that you accept the whole of India as Tamil Nadu as a part of India and the whole of India as part of Tamil Nadu. Both have, we are also cultured. We have also Ramayana tradition. In fact, Rama went through Tamil Nadu, through Rameshwaram. Ravan, originally, my Karunanidhi used to tell me that Ravan is a Dravidian. Then I pointed out that Ravan was born near Delhi. There's a place in Noida called village.
Basra.
Basra village where he was born. And Mandodari was born in near Meerut. So after getting the vara from Lord Shiva in Kailash, Ravan went and conquered, defeating his cousin, I think, Guber, in Sri Lanka. And so I would say, look at Tamil language. One day I had, of course, Karunanidhi and I were at the personal level very good friends. I think he liked people who are fighters who would not get scared of him. And I had no problem being his friends. But of course, he was ideologically dead against me. One day he was telling me, Tamil is a separate, pure language. I said, no, they are, all languages are connected to Sanskrit. He said, no, Tamil has no Sanskrit word. I said, your name is Sanskrit. And he was stunned. Karuna Nidhi. It was 100% Sanskrit. The word for election symbol is Chinnam. That is from Sanskrit, Chin. Udayan Suryan. That is Uday Surya, you see. So the British started this and these people have continued it and we have to overcome that. And I think we need a party which is Hindu-minded and it should be professionally managed, not this kind of Jalra party and that we have in BJP. And then I think you will find very soon will come up because the Tamil people, according to me, are aching for something which is national and different from this DMK.
So let's take a look at the governance portion, Dr. Swamy, because last 3 or 4 days, there have been calls by various people in the DMK party that the governor, just because he's rejecting the NEET proposal, that he should be recalled. Now, like I said, sir, once the judgment goes against them, instead of criticizing the judgment, they want to criticize the judge. It's a point I'm trying to make here is somehow they are pushing the limits of proprietary and law and getting away with it. So what can the center do to try and say somebody has to read the Riot Act to them?
No. See, the problem with Mr. Modi's handling of the BJP in this matter is similar to Indira Gandhi's handling of Congress and DMK. In 1971, when she wanted to go for elections, the Congress had split. So Kamraj, everybody had gone away. So the Congress that she had was very, very weak. So she went into an alliance with the DMK, and made what alliance she made is that all the assembly seats, 100%, will be fought by DMK. Congress will not fight any assembly seats. But out of the 40, that is including Pondicherry, 40 seats of Lok Sabha, Congress will fight 26, and the remaining 14 will be fought by DMK. That alliance destroyed the Congress party and became their permanent unni, means leech
Right.
on DMK. And today, people like Chidambaram and all, of course, Chidambaram has been defeated now in the elections, but they, or Karti Chidambaram, they cannot get elected unless the DMK supports them. I was the only one who came and stood alone in Madurai. Madurai was never a DMK seat. They in fact, in most of the elections, they used to lose their deposit. It's the first time when I stood, because Madurai is my hometown, so I insisted. Jayalalitha was in alliance with me, but she told me that she won't be able to help me at all in that constituency. But I did win. I do feel that today, if there are people who can work for the public instead of just being, going to Delhi and saluting somebody and coming back, then this party, BJP-like party or a Hindu party, has a full chance of coming there. This is the way to go forward. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Swamy. Do you have a few minutes for taking a couple of questions, sir?
Yeah, sure.
Wonderful. So can we have some questions, please? First question from Chaitanya. Sir, should India move its capital to Nagpur as it is the center of India, and should we create a state called Vidarbha under central rule, which spans 36,000 kilometers in area, which includes Nagpur?
Yeah, this is something I've been asking from almost my college days, you see.
Wow.
Because Nagpur is right in the middle of India.
Yes.
And much easy for the eastern part, the western part, the southern part, northern part. All will have to make equal sacrifices to come to Nagpur. But building a capital is a long-term process, because you have to have so many buildings, you have to transfer so many files, documents, this thing, the Supreme Court. Delhi has grown over these last 70 years. And if you're determined to have Nagpur, and I would certainly be damn pleased to see. I know that the mud of Delhi, Indraprasth and Hastinapur, will never give you happiness in the country. You have to move out of that. And Nagpur is the best place. Nagpur will be excellent. And the suggestion is not new, but the fact is that somebody remembers it. I am grateful to him for that. Over a period of time, we will have to make a long-term plan and slowly build Nagpur to a modern city status, and then start moving into Nagpur. And we got a lot of able people who can do it. Gadkari is from Nagpur. RSS is from Nagpur. So you got a lot of help that you can get to get this done.
Next question, please. Mr. Lee wants to know, should India be divided into around 700, 800 district level units rather than 20 odd states? Currently, states are functioning as middlemen, obstructing implementation of central policies.
Well, I think that's an extreme way of putting it. I mean, there's truth in what Mr. Lee has said. But first of all, we have 700 to 800 districts right now. But they are subservient to the state capitals. They are not, in the original Hindu concept, you used to call them janpadas. So a district would be like a janpada. And we were totally decentralized society. And what is being suggested is this. But I again think that this is something that needs to be planned. I mean, I certainly welcome smaller states. Each district being a state is also is possible, but this requires enormous planning, and certainly I will not be very. I don't think people will take it kindly if I started talking in these terms and say all these are utopian, but they are good utopian ideas which need long-term planning.
Next question, please. Raghu wants to know, Dr. Swamy, your thoughts on NEET PG reservations. It is hurting a lot of general candidates. Do OBCs deserve 27% reservation?
The problem is once given, to take it back is tough. And actually, these reservations only apply to government hospital, government medical colleges, or to some extent those which take heavy grants from the center. If our rich people, and we have lots of rich people now, I think even amongst the multimillionaires, we have got some 300, 400 of them. If these rich people like the Americans, create foundations, take for Mr. Tata, he's put $50 million at Harvard. Now, Harvard doesn't need money. It's overflowing with money because all this alumni, it's an alumni, all American Ivy League colleges are all driven not by the government, it's driven by alumni. Our alumni have no sense of that kind of attachment. Once you graduate, you buzz off, you see. No matter how rich you are, they don't donate. So I think what we need to do is expand the private colleges by those people who feel that all these reservations is hurting merit. And so let it be there. Let the government hospitals have reservations. But the private hospitals and medical colleges, they should be free. They are free anyway, but they should be encouraged to the extent that in terms of land and infrastructure and so on. But the financing should come from the people, and particularly the alumni. That's the way to go about it.
Next question from Mafia Don. How to make CBI as powerful as FBI of America?
CBI is as powerful in terms of money, manpower, and so on. But it doesn't have that kind of independence which the FBI has. But that independence of FBI is due to FBI agents themselves. And the head of the FBI is a man who can stand up to the President of the United States and say, I won't do this. In India, we're not taught that. You see, today I criticize Narendra Modi on bad policy in economy. People say, why are you criticizing Modi? I'm not criticizing Modi. I'm criticizing his policy. So our country, everything is personalized. So CBI director also wants to be on the right side of the Prime Minister. So therefore, and the powerful people in the politics. So therefore, you have this issue. But the day we begin to develop this kind of concept that, we have to stand up for the truth. We are not necessarily anti anybody, but that we believe that better policies are available and they should be pursued. That kind of thing happens. If the FBI is, they will go and catch anybody. And no president of the United States or any senator can do anything about it. And so I think CBI is structurally ready to be an FBI, but that mental thing, I am I'm the the mental thing that I'm not a servant of the government. I'm here to fight crime. That mindset has to come.
Ameya wants to know, can you write a letter, Dr. Swamy, can you write a letter to PMO and Home Minister to create a Sawarna commission to address concerns and targeting of upper castes?
Which upper castes are being targeted? I mean, we are strong enough, the upper caste is strong enough to reply. I don't think you go to UP and you will find Brahmins and Kshatriyas being targeted. The real question is that the Brahmins and Kshatriyas and all upper castes want to get government jobs. That is where the problem arises. Then there you are at a disadvantage because the level of reservations has been going up. If each of us felt I will stand alone, I will do my own thing, or large numbers of people of that community help. In Tamil Nadu, Brahmins are very well to do, but they will not come together. They are more likely to be, there will be more anti-Brahmins than there would be of anti-DMK. This is a mindset, this is the problem. I don't think I need a Savarna commission to alleviate the problems. The Brahmins as a community, if you want to be called a Brahmin, because a Brahmin is, really speaking, as Lord Krishna says in Gita, is somebody who's a Jnani, Tyagi and Sahasi. If you are a coward, you can't be a Brahmin. But most Brahmins in Tamil Nadu, at least I find, they're terrified of taking anybody on in the government.
Next question from Mohan Parthasarathi. When do you think we can get away with the reservation system? How many more decades or centuries do you think it will take?
When the private sector becomes very large, this reservation system will collapse. There's no way that the reservation system, which is run on government companies and government enterprises, can match the private sector. And for that, we need policies. And, we have very large, disproportionate number of upper caste people in government, but they don't think in these enlightened terms. How can we ensure that the private sector is allowed to come up? I'm not talking about Birlas and Tatas and so on. I am really talking about startups, middle class, MSMEs, that kind of thing. And the day you make enterprises run by Savarns, you will find that this whole reservation system will collapse. Today, somebody wants to join a multinational corporation in Bombay, there's no reservation for that. In companies, private companies, there's no reservation. There's only nothing but competition there. So where you are craving for is this position in government. That's where the reservations come.
Viewers, we are not taking any more questions. We are down to last two. Please stop sending in your questions. We are very sorry about that. We can accommodate it in our next show. Right now, we are only going to take two more. We are going to have only two questions that are going to be read. The first one is Abhinandan Murali wants to know, what are your thoughts about the new leader of BJP, K. Annamalai, in Tamil Nadu?
I have no idea about him because for a long time, I've not taken any interest in BJP activities in Tamil Nadu. Nor are they interested in taking any of our Janata Party people who were very active and famous into their party, because they're all insecure people. And I find them sycophants of leaders in the north. And the leaders in the north want basically followers. They're not interested in leaders. And then this craze for alliances with DMK or ADMK or alternatively DMK, ADMK. These things have made BJP into a pathetic party. And therefore, I have no opinions about Mr. Annamalai. except I heard his name. I think he's a police officer, right?
He used to be a police officer, sir. Yeah.
Police in Karnataka.
Yes. Yes.
But you see, take a person like Chandralekha. She actually resigned from service and came after Jayalalitha's people threw acid on her face. She just resigned and came. And she is a master organization. MGR used to think no end of her. All MGR's personal constituency elections, he made sure that area collector was Chandralekha. But they won't even invite her to the office. So how can I possibly, take any interest in either the leader or the organization called BJP Tamil Nadu?
Next question, please. This is the last question for today. Arjun wants to know, sir, should reservation be implemented in schools from class 1 and within 12 years? And then it will help in reducing mismatch at entrance exam level and reduce hate among your, as the cutoff gaps will decrease.
I don't think that's the issue at all. I mean, yes, you can have reservations right from top to bottom, but of what? It has to be government schools. It has to be schools which are obliged to the government. It can't be. You can't put it in private. It'll be struck down by courts if you do that. So therefore, if you want to reduce the mismatch and so on, then have private, make people with in the private sector build lovely schools. I mean, there are schools where people run crazy. In Tamil Nadu, in Chennai, we have some very good schools where people are constantly asking me whether I can put in a recommendation. Of course, I don't, but because I don't know any of them. But the fact is that we have a tradition in Tamil Nadu of producing excellent schools, and that can be done privately. And again, I'm telling you, learn to stand on your own feet. Don't depend on the government.
Thank you very much, Dr. Swamy. That was an enlightening conversation. And I think we have opened a lot of minds. People have to really start. The youth of India, really, you need to listen to and watch these videos. There's such intellectual depth in this conversation that Dr. Swamy had. Excuse me. Thank you very much, sir. And we'll be back again in a couple of weeks' time. Dr. Swamy is getting really busy these days. So we are trying to best to make sure that we get him to talk to us. Once again, Dr. Swamy, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, sir. Namaskaram.
Thank you. Welcome anytime.